appointment of Boris Johnson as Foreign Secretary has been compared by one Labour MP to the Roman Emperor Caligula making his horse a senator. Well, that's just one of the barbs being thrown at Mr Johnson, who has a long track record of making questionable public comments about foreign dignitaries. His task as Britain's representative on the world stage now made all the more difficult. Here's our Foreign Affairs correspondent, Jonathan Rugman.
Take care, everybody.
Mr Johnson, how do you feel about your appointment, sir?
Very excited, very happy, thank you.
Boris Johnson was flying high this afternoon, his first day in his new job. Not flying as high as in this notorious stunt in 2012, and certainly not adored. For many in the chancelleries of Europe and beyond are astonished that a man who compared the EU's ambition with Nazi Germany is now the UK's top diplomat. France's foreign minister responded this morning with undiplomatic language of his own.
I'm not worried about Boris Johnson, but you know very well what his style is like, his method. He lied a lot to the British people during the campaign, and now he is the one to have his back against the wall, to defend his country and to clarify his relationship with Europe.
In Washington, the State Department's spokesman heard the news and broke into what seemed a disbelieving grin.
How do you think?
In Berlin, this talk show couldn't suppress its giggles. While only yesterday the German foreign minister talked of irresponsible British politicians bolting off from Brexit to play cricket. I find it monstrous, he said, making it very clear that Johnson was the monster he had in mind. But Boris is no stranger to scrapes. In fact, he seems to thrive on them. And now he has risen from the political dead, the second coming after a fortnight of miracles.
After a vote like the referendum result on June the 23rd, it is inevitable that there's going to be a certain amount of plaster coming off the ceiling in the chancelleries of Europe. It wasn't the result that they were expecting, and clearly they're making their views known in a frank and free way. I have to say that the gentleman that you mentioned, the French foreign minister, in fact has sent me a charming letter just a couple of hours ago, saying how much he looked forward to working together and to deepening Anglo-French cooperation on all sorts of areas, and that is what we want to achieve.
British ambassadors may have choked over his newspaper articles, like this one on Barack Obama.
The part Kenyan president's ancestral dislike of the British Empire.
I love Winston Churchill.
Or this on President Putin.
Despite looking a bit like Dobby the house elf.
Dobby, shush, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to offend you or anything.
He is a ruthless and manipulative tyrant.
Or this description of Hilary Clinton.
She's got dyed blonde hair and pouty lips and a steely blue stare, like a sadistic nurse in a mental hospital.
And this year's limerick on President Erdogan of Turkey.
There was a young fellow from Ankara who was a terrific w***er.
The Turkish president has a very thin skin and has been known to take a long time to heal relations with countries that have upset him. I think Boris is going to have to eat a lot of humble pie quite early on if he wants to get on the right foot in Ankara.
And I would say to people who are anxious about this appointment, don't rush to judgment. It's a bold appointment, it's an imaginative appointment, and it's what we need at a crucial moment in the history of our foreign policy and diplomacy, a shot of adrenaline into the system.
Russia's foreign ministry sounded relieved. I can say we won't miss Mr. Hammond, their spokeswoman said. Perhaps they are hoping a softening of the policy on President Assad's Syria is on the cards. We understand several pro-Brexit MPs have visited Damascus in the last few months, and we're told unofficially that Johnson's appointment is welcome there. This is a department which has lost 25% of its budget in the last few years and is badly in need of cheering up. What's more, Boris Johnson's charisma could give British foreign policy a badly needed boost on the world stage. That is, if he puts his undiplomatic language behind him, as he surely must. Jonathan Rugman, Channel 4 News, at the Foreign Office.